and to feed the poor and needy. It all seemed so foreign, though, and difficult to imagine. Why would you want to do that when home was so comfortable and secure? It wasn't until later on in my life that I really began to understand and have those opportunities to go to the far-flung places to share God's love through helping and serving the needy and the poor. I'll come back to my story in a minute, but first I'd just like to read a few verses from Matthew. And this is the point when Jesus had ridden into Jerusalem on the donkey, and he was in the temple. He was being quizzed by various people, almost trying to trick him. But this is from Matthew 22, verses 34 to 40. Hearing that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, the Pharisees got together. One of them, an expert in the law, tested him with this question: "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments." We know that this scripture is foundational to our church and to Christianity in general. And Christianity is about community. Our own vision for 4U churches, our 4 churches, includes this statement: to welcome everyone, serve our communities, and grow as we follow Jesus together. So how should we serve our communities? What does serving others mean? Back to my story. In 1985, it was my final year at university, and I met and started dating a very nice young man called Adrian. We were both in the end-of-year production of Greece, and what a voice and what a dancer he was. It turned out that he was a Salvationist, his church being the Salvation Army, which is new to me. I'd always known the Sally Army as somewhere where you go for help, not that it was a church. As probably all of you know in this room, in this church, when you're in the first throes of romance, you'll go and do just about anything to be with that person you think you're in love with. And of course I said yes when he invited me to a Salvation Army meeting. I hadn't actually been to church all my university years, so it was a fairly big deal. Well, I loved it. Okay, so the uniforms are a bit wacky, and the women play tambourines, but there was real joy at these meetings, and great music from the band, from the songsters, and the kids as well got involved at every meeting. And most importantly to me at the time, there was an active outreach and witness to the community. Every Sunday after the morning meeting, the band and a small group of songsters would go to a local housing estate and play and sing. Admittedly, there were mixed reactions. Who wants to be woken up on a Sunday morning by a brass band playing outside their bedroom window when you're trying to have a lie-in? However, lots of people used to come out and listen, and we got a chance to talk and witness to them. I had such a great few months until Adrian went off to music school and met someone else. So that was the end of us. I cried, I was devastated for a while, but I eventually recovered. And the seed was sown. I moved to Manchester to start a postgraduate course, and I went and joined the Salvation Army at Stockport. And once I became a proper member, I was in the Salvation Army for the next 10 years, wearing that wacky uniform and playing a tambourine. And I also did my bit witnessing to the local communities wherever I was living. I loved it. The Salvation Army is well known for helping others, and with Christianity at the core of that, what better example could I have for living out the commandment to love God and love my neighbour? Jesus spoke more than once about loving and serving others. You think about the story of the Samaritan. 3 people had the opportunity to help a man who had been robbed, but only one did, and that was the Samaritan, the least liked and favoured person. When Jesus asked the question as to who was a neighbour to that man who had been attacked, the expert in the law answered that it was the one who had had mercy. Jesus then turned and told him to do likewise. Jesus, at that point, went to the heart of faith by reminding them the importance of love, which is the basis and central to everything. We must love God, all that we have, but we must also love our neighbour as ourselves. And this really gets to the heart, again, of Christianity. Jesus shows us, most importantly, in this story, that loving our neighbour has no ethnic, cultural, national, or religious boundaries. Do we show the love of God to those with whom we don't know, we might fear, who don't speak the same language or practice a different religion? Back to my story. At the end of 1996, I moved to Orléans in France. I was offered a one-year contract with my company and ended up staying 18 and a half years. It's funny how these things work out. In 2000, my job took me to Paris, and after having no church for more than 3 years, I started attending a small international church in the western suburbs. The following year, and by the way, that's where Scott was working at the time, that's how I met Scott originally. The following year, a young couple called Dan and Janelle arrived from the US to work at the church as youth ministers. And within a year, they had organised a mission trip with the youth to Hungary to work with a charity called Habitat for Humanity. It's a Christian charity, if you've not heard of it, based out of America. And since the 70s, they've been helping build homes all across the world, I mean millions of houses now, for the poor and for the needy. The following year, they organised a similar trip, and I signed up. We went back to Hungary, and I loved it. It was hands-on work, helping families who lived in the most appalling conditions to then have a decent home of their own. The experience was both life-changing for the families, but also for our team and for me. We worked alongside both professional builders and the family members themselves, often communicating via an interpreter, but also a lot of this sign language. What better way to show God's love than through our actions? St. Francis once said, "Preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words." Our life must first demonstrate the changing power of Jesus before we can talk about it. Let our actions do the preaching before we utter a word. Dan and Janelle then moved back to the US in 2003, but before they did, Janelle asked me if I'd continue doing the mission work, and I said yes. And after that, we organised a further 9 trips with Habitat for Humanity with groups of youth and young adults, back to Hungary, to Poland, to Romania, to Portugal, and then we actually did 2 trips up to Liverpool, to Toxteth. There are so many stories to tell. And if you want a good story, you just go and talk to Scott, because he's got many, many funny stories. He came on all of those trips. But we really did have fantastic times. In 2015, after the offer of a job and a clear call from God to be nearer my parents, I left France and moved back to England, settling here in Marlow. I can safely say that God brought me here to ASM, as I'm not sure I would have ever considered coming to an Anglican church. And that's not saying anything bad about anyone here, but I have no background in the Anglican church. I never went to a Church of England church growing up. However, I felt so at home here, despite being on very new church ground. I soon got to know Anna Clark, who was our children's ministry lead till quite recently, and found out about the Smiles Foundation, which she had worked for over in Romania. Straight away I thought, yes, we need to go there with a team. We need a mission trip with All Saints to go and serve with the Smiles Foundation. And soon after, we presented a business case to the Church Council to organise a mission trip in 2016, and the rest is history. For those of you who don't know, the Smiles Foundation is a Christian charity working in northwest Romania. They work with disadvantaged children, families, minority groups, the homeless, the disabled, abused, and the elderly. For several weeks each year around the school holidays, they open their mission centre to welcome groups from all over the world for a hands-on experience working with these people and providing valuable help with all the projects that they run, and they run a lot. In the past 2 years, our teams have distributed food to the desperately poor and homeless, visited and entertained the elderly, helped in the local gypsy school, planted thousands of plants in their nursery, painted and decorated in the old people's home, help run an after-school program, and also sort out their warehouse. Again, it's a life-changing experience. Once again, our actions being the mouth by which we speak of God's love, as apart from Anna, none of us spoke a word of Romanian. You learn to step out of yourself, see for yourself real poverty and suffering, and at the same time witness that your love and actions can make such a difference. You learn to value differences in others and lay aside preconceived ideas of people and places. I know that everyone who has been to Romania so far, and actually Ali and so on, who went in the last 2 years as well, would agree with those statements. And we've also got quite a few people who are going this year. Put your hands up if you're going on the trip this year. So I'm thrilled that we've got lots of young people going this year. We can go in half term. I can't go myself because I have to be at work, because half my colleagues are off because they've got children for half term. But I am so excited that they're going to get to go and hopefully get that passion for mission. I hope you'll be able to support also. We've still got some fundraising to do, and with the fish and chip supper and quiz night coming up, that you can come along to that and help support the team. In conclusion, although my personal story might be new to you, the message behind this talk is probably not. I believe if you truly love God, your desire to love and serve others comes quite naturally. Serving comes in many shapes and forms, and I'm sure all of you here play some part in serving both our church community and the wider Marlow community, or the one where you happen to live. Going on a mission trip thousands of miles away is one more way of serving and growing in your Christian faith, and I recommend it to you all. And just as a PS, it may be too late to sign up for Romania, but there's always the trip to Burundi next Easter. And yes, I'm going on that one too. So we'd love you to come on that. That's an even bigger challenge in so many ways, but how exciting to get to serve God somewhere like that. Hopefully, we're going to see a video now. This is the video that was put together after last year's trip. I know we had a few sound issues, so we're crossing everything and praying to God that the sound works and the visuals work as well. So I hope you can enjoy our video.
Hello and welcome to Romania and the home of Smiles. As founder and chief executive to the Smiles Foundation, I would like to personally thank you for your interest and support in the work we do among some of the poorest people living here in Bihor County, northwest Romania. Our beautiful mission centre is home to our mission trip guests, and their home for Romania is a hands-on mission experience, one they'll never forget, and one we pray will change both their lives and those of the people they connect with while here.
Rupa, which is a gypsy community community, and that's progressed so much in the last year. They've just started working, doing literacy with the children and with the adults, and I helped take part in a children's outreach programme, teaching them words from the Bible and playing games with them, doing craft. And it all ended up playing football outside with all the adults, and it was like everyone was being kids again, and it was just really, really good fun.
I spent quite a bit of time this week in Tiliad, which is a gypsy community that Smiles have been working with for over 10 years. And it was brilliant to be able to spend time in the school and supporting the work there, and it's fantastic to see how Smiles are fully invested in helping the children through their education and supporting them not only with what they need in school, but also the support that they need outside of school.
I was saying that yesterday I was at an assisted living place in Tiliad, and I managed to get involved in moving a lady from a home into the assisted living place, and that was in line with what I do at home in the ambulance service. So I was able to go out to that home and assist with moving her and seeing her into the place. It was really good.
I went to Romania last year with Smiles and thought it was amazing, so went again this year, and it was great going back to see lots of projects, see how they progressed. I went to JFL, which is an elderly care centre, played Connect 4 with Mr Moses, who thrashed me, also he thinks, and danced with lots of people. It was just lovely to see smiles on all their faces.
Smiles lead a whole range of projects, and it's really interesting being able to go back to projects that you've seen earlier on other mission trips, and just to see the difference that Smiles are really making in the lives of the people that they're working with.
Looking forward to when I came to Romania, to the Smiles Foundation, to see how God was working in people's lives, and to experience the way that it was changing people's lives and the impact it was having on them, and how it was helping them to grow and to experience our God. Yeah, I would definitely encourage others to come and to have this experience. I think it's something some people should do at least once in their lifetime, to come and to do this. I found it a very fulfilling experience.
They make a real difference, and it's I feel privileged to be part of it.